It is 7 o'clock. We'll call to order the meeting of the Town of Lincolnville Planning Board for Wednesday, June 26th. This meeting is called to order. We will start quickly, just in introducing ourselves to folks out there. I'll start with Bill.
Bill Northfleet, Earl Brown, member.
Dick Reeling, member.
Janice K. Lincolnville Center.
Dick Butler, Chair.
Frank Terrio, code officer.
Sandy Delano, vice chair.
Nancy Weiser, Spot.
So, thank you. The purpose of the meeting is a public hearing on proposed amendments to the Town of Lincolnville Land Use Ordinance to update the shoreline zoning provisions. Dave Kinney, the Town Administrator, will be presenting, and that's about it. What I'd like to suggest is that Dave will make his presentation. If we have any comments or questions from members of the audience, we'd like to limit it to a 30-minute session if we can, and no more than 3 to 4 minutes each if possible. So, but we're flexible. So, Mr. Kinney, if you would like to give us your presentation.
I'll jump up and talk quick. I'll give you 3 to 4 minutes. January 10th, January 13th, and March 13th of this year, the town of Lincolnville, along with a number of other coastal communities, experienced some, shall we say, extraordinary weather events. Well, let's hope they were extraordinary, but they may be more frequent as we move forward in the future. One really never truly knows. Part of those events triggered some flooding, particularly at Lincolnville Beach. Several property owners after the flooding approached the town about the possibility of changing their buildings, basically elevating their buildings, bringing them up higher to get out of the flood zone, or minimize the flood impacts. Our ordinance in certain ways prohibits that. That's not really what we're here for, to prohibit somebody from investing in their property and keeping it in good condition. Upon exploration, we found that the state's mandatory shoreline zoning ordinance has been amended that would allow for, as long as towns adopt the new regulations, would allow for people to raise their buildings up. So we've taken that language, Frank and I and the town attorney reviewed the ordinance, took the state's language, pretty much verbatim, if not exactly verbatim, really close, and inserted it within the necessary spots of our current land use ordinance to allow people to expand or raise their buildings in the, actually it's raise the buildings in the shoreline zone under certain provisions. And there was one other change, I'll read these to you, but at the bottom of section C on the permit application, state statute again was changed that requires applicants that are doing work in the shoreline zone to submit pre- and post-construction photographs. So that was one thing that didn't come up with the changes regarding the storm events, but since it's in the law and we fell short of having that in our ordinance, we've included that within the proposed amendments as well. Having exhausted my 3 minutes, I'm happy to answer anybody's questions if they have any, or I'll sit back down if someone has.
And the 2 typos in the plan that I received been cured?
I have no idea. Why don't you point out those 2 typos and
section DC,
DC,
which is a couple pages in. 90 days of approval or LESE, I would assume that's else.
Unless, I think it means unless.
I don't know what it's supposed to be.
Well, we'll find out what that's supposed to actually say. And
Unless
that,
that's true, unless it's.
that's actually in the actual ordinance. That's not a proposed change with the exception of the labeling. So perhaps if somebody has that section of the ordinance available to them, we could find out what that word is supposed to be and get that changed. So that wouldn't require a change to the ordinance, it would just require a change to this that we presented to the voters. Anybody got that ordinance? Frank, you just made a note of that so we can look at that tomorrow, right? Yes. Thank you.
The other one is under item number 3. Just to the right of the underline otherwise provided in this ordinance, there's an extra T in there.
That is crossed out. And
Not on mine.
it doesn't mind. It is on mine.
Okay.
If somebody has sabotaged or not.
The intent there for the copies that aren't apparently appropriate,
Maybe it is.
is the, capital T is stricken, and the lowercase t has a little underline underneath it because there's a
No, I misread it, I just.
half a sentence before that now.
He withdraws his.
I withdraw
Okay,
mine.
good, but the first one was spot on, Sandy.
You tell somebody.
I don't know what that word is, but we're gonna figure that one out.
See, I do read this crap. I mean, this.
Not true.
Now, so I sit down, we have other people.
Get our.
So do we have any questions or comments from members of the audience? Okay, so this is a very short meeting.
Not yet. There goes Janice.
Okay.
So David,
I'm sorry.
Jan, this is a short meeting.
I gotta feed the, I gotta have to feed the dogs, I have to.
This meeting can go
you
on
know
as
what
long as
bothers
you
me?
need.
I like the idea. I mean, I think it's great. Yes, why should anybody's building get flooded if we allow them to put them up on stilts, right? But what concerns me is that, I mean, what if there's only one person who's come to the select board that wants to raise their building? Then the other 12, let's just make a number up, 12 businesses there will be penalized in essence because they are gonna get insurance.
But everyone would have the same capability of raising their building out of the floodplain.
I know, but what if 9 of them don't want to? Or there's only one person.
If they don't want to, they're.
We're not requiring anybody to do this.
It's a great
We're allowing them the option if they choose to go down that road or off that.
It's a great American way, they had a choice.
It's optional. If you're one of those 9 people you talked about, you don't have to do it.
No, but shouldn't there be more than one person, one business that's requesting this?
There has been.
Can you tell us how many?
I'm aware of 2, I don't know how many Frank is aware of.
2 is too many.
Pardon?
2 was too many. And I'm sure that word was out that this movement was underway, because this has been available for a while. And it just come to light as of the March dates where the damage took place. And at that point in time, the federal government finally came back to the state of Maine and said, you've been asking for this, we're going to give you the capability of lifting it up out of the floodplain. Unfortunately, our ordinance would not let you raise the height of the building because it's clearly defined in our ordinance. You're either 32 feet or 35, depending where you are and what zoning you're in. So this is, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to.
Okay, thank you, David, that's my comment.
I just looked that up, and you're right, in the original ordinance, it does say, or L-E-S-E, I'm pretty sure that word should be unless.
Well, that will be a future change versus a change to this,
Okay.
when I believe, unless we're allowed to make that change, we'll check with council. The existing ordinance actually puts LESE in there.
Just keep my name out of it.
We call that the safety provision.
There you go.
All right. Too familiar.
Take what was said.
Yeah, I think we're all set, so, I guess that portion of the meeting's over, we don't have to, any sort of approval
We're voting on it.
or voting on it, so.
Oh, well, you're not done yet. I don't know if any of these other people wish to speak. The select board will be, now that, or when you conclude the public hearing, the select board will be discussing this again at their July 8th meeting. Tentatively, they are setting a special town meeting for July 22nd, which is a Monday night, where this will be considered, but I say tentatively until they actually raise their hand and sign the documents and make that all happen. But I believe that's the schedule as best I know it today. So I just will let you know.
So unless there are any more questions, we'll conclude that portion of the meeting. Okay, so that's it. The only other business we have as the board is to approve minutes from the June 12th meeting.
This meeting,
So,
I have work to do.
has everybody looked at them?
I did get a copy.
I sent it to you by email, but I do have a copy, an extra copy here, just.
Sure, thank you.
I read them, they look fine.
So you want to take a chance to look at it?
Nancy did a bag.
Due to Melissa's accident, she probably didn't get them into the packet in time.
Well, I just noticed that yesterday, and okay, so can we have a motion, please?
Motion to accept the minutes of the, what's the date?
June 12th.
June 12th meeting of the Lincolnville Planning Board.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? So approved. Call from adjournment.
Motion to adjourn our meeting?
Second. Any discussion?
Well, I don't.
All in favor?
Discussion. Any of these people want to speak?
Well, we've already given them the invitation.
Did you know that?
Yeah, you were,
Okay.
see, you were so.
Because sometimes he's very quiet when he.
We want to make sure they're getting their money's worth out of it.
I made it twice.
I know,
All right, so.
Just double checking because it
all in
came all the
favor?
way out here.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
All right, all right.
Thank you,
John.
folks.
I guess I gotta go home.
Any,
Yeah.
well, you
Dave,
know, somebody's got to be contrary.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah,
may I talk to you for a minute?
weekend, Dick. All I have is time.
That's right. All you got is time.
All any of us have, right? Good to see you.
Good night.
On our
See you.
website,
Yes.
Say hello to you.
right across the top banner, right underneath the pictures of changes,
That's right.
there's something, there's a tab called e-notices.
But that,
And if
that
you
doesn't count, we should.
Follow the instructions there, we'll send
Yeah,
the
well,
agendas.
you know, we're
we'll send
down
the
there every
notices
Friday
on the
night,
thing.
and,
Yeah, where is it that you go now?
well, we're going to the pub.
Well, not the whole 9 yards, but at least a
You
few.
still go to those too?
And, if you have any problems, just give me a
Well,
call
what
and
about the one
I'll
across
walk
the
you through
street?
it.
Well, they don't have a pub.
Good night.
Nancy, thank you.
Yeah, I guess even in the summer. they had
We
no-
actually, if you
No,
send
they,
me an
I
email,
mean, the, what else do they?
we have a community
You have
interest
in summer
forum,
too?
so basically,
Okay.
contact
Maybe I'll
information,
stop by.
tell us which community
It's
you'd like
kind
to
of hard
serve
because they
on,
don't close
road
till
spot.
5.
Agents on
And
these,
it's like,
Yeah, of course.
well, pretty much, unless
why
I
you're
just.
interested.
Oh, and it's not that
And
formal.
then we'll get you.
Yeah, I've
We'll
been to,
just show up,
I've been to
some
it
people,
before.
some do, some don't.
Yeah.
There
I've
are.
been to it before, I'll
Yeah, I know.
try, but
Yeah.
it'll probably be like 5:30.
Are you part of the Lincolnville Google group, the little bulletin boards that come? Okay.
My wife is.
Yeah. I'm about to, if I can figure out the time to sit down at the computer, list all of our committees that have current vacancies.
Okay.
But certainly you can call them and go over and either all of them with you and tell you what's open, what's not.
That's fine. That's fine. Whatever I can do to help.
Yeah, we'll, if you're interested, we'll find something to match your skills or your interests with, what we have and put you right to work.
That's fine.
Thanks for
Happy
coming.
to do that. You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Butler.
I think he's got us our next meeting coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I need to be sworn in if the select board
Yeah.
is telling me I can come back, or
Yeah.
wants me to come back, or whatever.
Oh, yeah, your term is up, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
On the 8th, the select board will be doing all the reappointments.
Okay.
And if you're not, if you're still willing, my guess is they're gonna reappoint everybody that wants to be reappointed. One, you show up to meetings, you do a good job, blah, 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 which isn't always the case. And we'll move forward. And then at that point, one of the ladies will send you a note saying, come on in and sign your own papers.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
I just wasn't sure of the procedure.
Yep.
Now, Bill is not going to.
Yeah, Bill let me know he wasn't going to. Actually, reached out to everybody whose term is expiring to say, if you're interested, let me know. And you said you were, and Bill said he wasn't. And
Oh, that's the only two.
no.
I think there's someone else, but I'll have to look.
I'd have to look too. I'm trying to think of who's. Maybe this is the year that is one regular and then obviously the two alternates, but one alternate is already vacant. And then Bill leaves and two alternates that are vacant.
Yeah, so this gentleman, maybe.
Well, he's expressed some interest in becoming more involved in the community. And while we were sitting here, I said, well, we're gonna have a vacancy in the planning board. So if this is something you'd wanna, so he's thinking about it. I think he did mention just as he was leaving, is there vacancy on the Conservation Commission? Yes, it is. So, but he could serve on both.
That's right, yeah.
So,
Just can't serve on the select board
Right.
or on the appeals.
right, yeah,
Well, that was quick. I expected to see more conversation on this.
I was kind of surprised that there was anybody here, to be honest with you.
Really?
I mean, one, excuse me, we don't seem to turn out a lot of people at public hearings, unfortunately. But this is more on the lines of somebody wants to invest and maintain their property in our community, and our rules stupidly say no.
This is a no-brainer.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
and you've got a nice night that was, was supposed to be raining, you say, I think I'll,
Yeah.
have something in the backyard on the grill or a cocktail or whatever you do.
Didn't you have a school meeting this week, or was it?
The school committee met Monday night while the select board was meeting here. They were open to school.
And how did that go?
They're in a bit of a pickle. Their budget recommendations weren't validated, so they've got to go back and, in essence, start over, maybe not at square one, but they have to figure out what changes, if any, they want to make and recommend. And we're on a very tight timeline with that. They have 45 days from the validation vote, which was June 11th, to present something else to the voters for consideration. And then, even what that gets presented in an open town meeting forum. And then once that meeting happens, the clock starts ticking again, and we're gonna have to hold another referendum election where people get to come in and vote yes or no. And it's an iterative process, so if they go to say no again, we're going back to the square one and just keep doing it, just keep doing it. So they're kind of up against it because when you take 45 days, June 11th, get you July 25th or 26th, something like that. But that's the day that's the last day the meeting can be held. But in order to hold it, and they're not proposing the last day, but we're not far from it. You've got to back up from whatever day is determined. It has to be posted at least 7 days in advance.
Yeah.
And the select board have to approve it prior to it being posted. And the budget committee has to meet to make their recommendations prior to the select board signing it.
So it's a tight schedule.
And, and Independence Day is next week. And you want to meet on Thursday night? I
Don't think so.
I probably won't be there.
Yeah, wow.
Although I guess if they hold a meeting, I'll go, but, it wouldn't be my first choice of day.
So the only other question I had is, there are a number of issues with the land use ordinance and shoreline zoning that we'd like to see some changes to.
Mhm.
And Earl said he's working on that, so, the last 2 or 3 meetings that we've had are totally worthless for the planning board to be involved in.
Yep.
And so those are the kind of things we'd like to give Frank more.
Just delegate
I
the
don't know,
authority.
I don't know how, I guess what we have to do is change the ordinance, right?
Right, so, right now, the select board has assigned working on the moratorium changes on the Primex properties, whatever.
Yeah.
So they're not likely to assign that to the land use committee, but the land use committee's making pretty good progress towards, I don't know if they've really started drafting, but they at least have a better understanding of what the ordinance says now, what it means, and where the issues could be changed. And I think once that's maybe not completely behind us, but closer to behind us, I don't think the select board would object if the planning board came, had a little memo that said, we've been working with this ordinance for years, and we see the following flaws.
Okay, well, maybe we should do that.
Will you address them, or will you get these addressed so that it can be more efficient, more whatever, whatever you think.
Yeah.
And the select board doesn't want to make it hard on anybody in terms of, certainly not on the volunteers. If you show up for a 5-minute meeting and it's just a complete waste of your time.
Yeah, I wouldn't characterize it like that.
Yeah,
But it is something that could easily be handled without any formal meeting, in my opinion.
Okay, so if that's the case, you make that pitch, then probably the select board would ask for the chair or a representative of the board to come and say, your experiences and why you think it's necessary for the change. And they'll either agree with you and work to get it changed, or they'll disagree with you and,
Sure, well, that's fair.
Yeah,
I understand that.
yeah, they're happy to have comments or concerns that if something's not working well and it's changeable, change it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna start putting something together, I'll talk to Frank about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
I know Frank's had a list on and off and way back in the day, when Lois Lyman was the chair of the planning board, they had something called Lois's list. And every time they ran into a oddity or a quirk or something, when they addressed the applicant, somebody would say something like, well, I make a motion that we add, this section to Lois's list. And they discussed, what they thought the quirks were, and they'd add it to the list, and some of those made it to the select board, and some of it made it to the list and never got addressed, so.
Yeah, we've discussed several of these after the meeting was over, after everybody left, before we closed, and everybody's in agreement that there are just certain things that common sense tells you that we don't have to have something like this. That's it.
Yeah.
I'll work on that.
Understood.
All right,
Great,
thank you.
thank you, have a nice evening.
You too.
Good.